I'm binding the journal and making ephemera. Hello and welcome to the Treasured Page. I'm Melanie and this is our quiet crafting space. So here is the Winter Whisper journal and I've got some binding in action at the moment. And I'll just show you that I've got one signature sewn in and I'm now doing my second signature. So this one is in position and this is the next one. What I've done is I have drawn a grid on the inside of my spine, my book cover, which looks quite frightening, but it isn't at all because this is a heat reactive pen, and when I heat it up with a shot of hot air or hairdryer or a heat gun, the red will disappear as if it were never there, and that is the brilliance of these pens, which I've always used for fabric, but crossing it over into this craft and using it on my paper book binding, I can just directly put it onto the cover of the book I'm wanting to bind, and then I've got a nice little grid. So to be nice and neat with it, I have drawn a grid line. I've drawn 3 lines in the distance where I want my signature pages to sit. And then I just punch the holes at the sections where I've measured it out. So once you've done one, you've drawn the line and you've worked out the points at where you want to have your holes, you've got the starting point for the next one, and it's very easy to draw up the grid there with the 3 holes. So we're having 3 signatures in this one, and I'm just putting this in here so you can see this is now coming together here. And this is how it's looking on this side. So what I decided to do is, from the book binding exercise in the last video, one of the last videos, I looked at doing a stitch that involved putting on beads, and I did them at every intersection point there. Every point I put a bead, but I thought for this one I'd alternate them, so I've got one here, then I've left without one there, and then left one without. So I'm going to come down here now. This is a dash dot stitch, so this is a one large dash stitch which goes through here, and then we come back up with these dots and add beads. Now, to attempt to film this, I said to myself it's going to be really hard to show, hard to film, and hard to do it in the first place. Whilst trying to be on camera, I think that that's just going to be a step too far. So I will show you exactly my process as best I can on camera, but because it is a fiddle and I need to get right over the top of the project to be able to see, and when I'm filming I am set back so I don't see so well. And I don't see so well anyway. I am of the glasses wearing community. I will need to get over that project. And also I found that I'm needing to pull my needle through with a little wiggle and a pull just to get it to go through. And I've also just realised that I'm sewing on my bit that I shouldn't be sewing on. So I needed to I needed to remove that. That was just my marker. Right, so that was just my marker which I'm using so I know where to put my holes. So I've measured them exactly to what's on the back, written top at the top, so I know that if the holes are in a different place, if I turn it round, it wouldn't quite work out. So I'm using some clips here. I'll just put those down so that they don't get in my way. Right. On this side we've now got the long stitch on there, and what I'm going to do is come back up and over. So I have to, we'll just leave that out for a moment. I have to go in. So now on the other side I'm coming up. Oh, this is a brilliant example of why these clips need to come down, so that you don't do that and get it caught on anything. So now that can come in. Okay, so it's quite a tricky process. This would be for people that have already found themselves familiar with binding, because it does require a little bit of wiggling, and also I've got this thread and this needle and then the bead. It is hard work, let's put it that way. I'm having to... Cool. Right, so I've got my bead on the binding thread there, and it was quite a tough job to get that through. So it is, if you've got such a thing, it's excellent if the bead passes nice and freely through. That would help immensely, but mine don't. They're a little bit of a tight squeeze, so I am having to use my pliers to hold my needle and then pull my bead down. So it is a bit of a tougher job, this one. And once I've got my bead in position, I'm then going to move the stitch over slightly just so I can see where I've got to go back down, but I'm not sure that this is going to pick it up on the film. I'll just do it anyway. And then, so I've come up one side of the central stitch, and now I'm going to go back down. But this is a very small, narrow hole, and I'm trying to avoid going through the other thread, which is this one coming up. So then if I turn it back over now, I've come back up, and we won't know until I've gone all the way through if I've gone through the other thread. If I have, it should present itself and come to the top. So I'm also just going to pull that up there now. Okay. And now I'm going back into the next hole. So I'm coming up. Okay, so I've been laying out the beads, and I've been thinking, do I want beads all the way down at every point, or do I just want them every other one? And in doing so, I've just laid them out so I can see that I would have a line of beads there, there, there and there, and I actually really like that look. So what I'm going to do here is not have a bead and come over, and then that one will be the beaded area. So it was a lot of little planning, really, if you want it to look a certain way. Otherwise, you just add a bead at every point. But I think for this, I'm just trying to keep it subtle and gentle and not too gaudy or overpowering. I could hang charms off it. Yep, you could do anything like that. So I've had a few really great suggestions of maybe having more snowflakes and things dangling off. And that is an idea, and I had sort of thought that maybe a dangling spine jewellery might be nice, but now I'm just thinking that that could be me personalising it too much, and I want this to be kept neutral. That's why I'm not going overboard with beads on the spine, and I'm keeping everything really natural. And I'm just got to think while I'm talking to make sure I go down through there with hopefully without going through that other thread. And I'm finding it difficult pulling it up, and I think I might have gone through. If you've gone through though, it does seem to come up to the surface and you can see. So I'm sorry, I'm going to have a look really close here. I've just caught one little thread and it does come up to the top, which is really useful because now I can rectify it, and then that's now free of the other binding, so that was really good. So don't worry too much if you do go through, it does come up to the top and then you can see. So now I'm just going to go back through, and these should fit through the holes really. You just sort of wiggle it until the needle feels the hole, and then you go through. I'm just going to come back, make sure that this central stitch comes over it that way. So we're looking like that. So we're always coming up on the same side. So it doesn't matter, but you need to do it for every time. So I came up on the right hand side of the stitch. So I've got to do that, got to keep doing that. Now this one is a beaded one. So I add a bead. And I'm finding these beads really, really small, and so I'm having to use my pliers and my jumper to just try and pull that through. And some of the, oh, there we go. And some of the beads seem to be better than others. All right, so we've got that. and then just go from the other side. We're now going down the left side of the central stitch, back through the hole, and just I'm pulling it to keep it out of the way, and just trying to gently feel my way through without going through the other thread that's already come up through that hole. It just seems to, when there's two threads going through there, you know, you have to give it a little bit more help. All right, so this is how it's done, but it isn't for everybody, this stitch, and it's certainly best to have less pages in your signature. So this one we're not having a bead. So down it goes. And I can feel that on the other side. These are nylon covered pliers. They're quite useful for putting on the book ends, clamping them together, and for this. So there's a dual purpose there for that tool. And then back out. Now this one will be a beaded one. So I'm doing the pull through, and I'm only doing this because it's hurting my fingers otherwise. So there we go, that's the bead on. Okay, so we're going to carry on now. Oh, I didn't sew my so I didn't sew these pages in. Why didn't you guys tell me? So there I am merrily sewing it in, and I should have been sewing in those as well. So this is a mistake. Or is it? This is where your brain has decided to do something else without you. So it's not a mistake. It's your creative mind has done something completely independent, and you haven't really forgotten because you knew full well that that was supposed to go in, and you just put it there. But your other side of yourself just decided, no. We've got better plans. Now that actually does look very nice. So we're going to carry on, and we're going to put the binding in there, and we'll just use this as something that hides the binding. Even though I've punched holes in it, don't worry. We've got this. We can just craft through it, and we'll probably prefer the result. So let's carry on as if nothing has happened, and don't worry about paper and where it's going to go, because that's all it is. And you really, unless you were entering some form of competition, you can't get it wrong, because whoever this is going to would technically be none the wiser, because they don't know that you had planned it that way. The way that they will have it presented is going to look awesome, because we'll make it awesome. It just will appear differently. But actually, mistakes is part of art. We welcome it. We look forward to it, because it's presenting the next pathway to you. You thought you were going in one direction, and then, oh no, actually you're not. You're not supposed to go down that route. That's not the right way for you. The right way is to come up with something more interesting for this. So that's okay. And if you really can't work out something, then we'll have to take the binding out and start again. But there really is nothing you can't craft your way out of. Okay, let's come back this way. And there we go. And that's the top. So I'm going to tie these off. And let's have a look. Yep, that's going to be fun. I like that. That's really good. Okay, it's a bit different with the beads on there, so it's nice. So we're just going to tie that in. Okay. And there we go. So that's all we do. I don't even think that needs glue in there. That's very secure. We've got wax thread, so I could leave it long, but I don't think so. So now we can work out if we indeed want these even in here. Okay, so I'm just going to sew these all together as if we were going to just do like a dash stitch. Let's have a go at that. Okay, so I'm just carrying on and sewing these in their own separate way, using the holes that I'd already punched. I'm just going to go up and down, and now I'm going to go back down that one. Like that, and then over through that one, and then out through this one, and there we go. So that's going to appear like that, and I'm just tying that off there, cutting this free, and here. Okay, I'm just adding a little glue to glue that down. And now I'm going to decide if I want to stick those pages to that, because that can't be a writing space anyway. And then I might just have that tethered in there, and then that is the writing space. Yes, I think I like that idea, so we're just going to do that. And because I'm using a stronger glue, because I'm gluing onto a really porous surface with this pretty fibrous paper here, I just want to make sure that it really grips and sticks down to the fibred paper. So I'm using this stronger glue, and we'll just do that like that. And another thing, I think, just as a sneaky idea, is I'm going to sneak in some lace at the top and the bottom. Alright, and now I can add this down here. And then I can smooth that out. And that's how we tackle what we perceive as mistakes. And that's also why we shouldn't be fearful to have a go, because when you do make a blooper or a mistake, because when you do something that you hadn't expected or you didn't intend to do, or that wasn't part of your original plan, just go, so what? What else could I do that I'd much prefer? And then do that, because that has led to something actually really brilliant. We've got a really nice binding on display. We've got workable pages here and here. We've got a nice writing space there. You couldn't have written on this bit anyway. Then we've added in an additional lace, which I definitely wasn't planning on and totally forgot I had. And it isn't until you're presented with these obstacles or problems that our brains start firing. And once they make those connections of what other things you could do, that's when it becomes joyful, that's when it becomes exciting, because you're working through problems and you're using your brain in a really interesting, intricate way. So please don't be afraid or scared of making errors, because we make them all the time. That's what junk journaling is about. You look forward to them, you're almost looking for them. You go, well, where do I go now? Oh, wish I didn't do that. But now you can think, oh no, actually, that helps me, because I can now do it this way, a different way, a way you weren't intending, and that way is always going to be more exciting. So turn it over to your creative self and embrace the embrace what you perceive as mistakes. The other creative side of your brain maybe had intended that all along. That's your subconscious working for you, and that's when you go on these wonderful journeys within a junk journal, because you embrace the twists and the turns that it takes. Okay, so these are the little seed beads that I used. I had a packet left over from a previous project, many years ago, and so it's really nice to be using up these things that I have. I've got one more signature to do. That's the first signature, and this one has got more pages in it, so I wanted to practice on those two before I put that one in. I will do that off camera because you have now seen the technique. So I did punch through with the awl, and I might just put a little bit of ink over the top of that one there. And just sort of blend those away, I'm just going to add a little bit of ink here from the ink dauber just to blend that in so we can't see all of that, but that's just a bit of a finish off at the end there. That's how I will deal with that, and then I'll do that one off camera. And there we go, there's 2 signatures in there so far with plenty of grow room. I want to just show you how it's looking. So this is going to be the central one, and when we fold out, this is what we see. So now I need to get rid of my grid, and I'll just show you that is how I do it with a shot of the heat tool here. Magic. There we go. So that can be achieved just by using the Frickson pens by Pilot. So I'll leave the link for those. You can get a pack of 4, and the ink lasts for ages. So it comes with the rubber. I'm not sponsored or anything. I just think that when I see things that I really think are good, I will promote them here. So that's a lot of fun. The other thing I wanted to show you is this tag idea. Super thin, super easy. So for this tag, all you're going to need is a strip of decorative paper that you're happy with, or one that complements or works or comes from a kit to go with the journal that you are using or making. And on the back of it, you are going to just line it with some lined paper or coffee stained paper or whatever you can get your hands on. I came across this notepad in a junk shop, and it is just that natural unbleached paper. So it is quite old, it's a bit vintage, but it's an unbleached paper, so it's got a natural cream tone to it, and I think that looks lovely. All I've done is use my stick glue and stick the two together, and I've cut it down. So that is going to fit nicely within this journal, so that's the size that I aimed for, so that it can go inside here somewhere, and so it can neatly fit inside here. I don't do tags very often on the channel, so I'm just doing this for you now so we can say we've done one. And what I've got is a gift card or credit card, and just cut a triangle off the edge, and you can vary the angle to be the tag shape that you like. And when you've cut that away, you've now got a really cool template. If you haven't seen this before and you're new to it, you will now be able to line up the top and the side of the card, and then that is your point that you cut away. So now I'm just going to cut that bit away to give me a tag corner, and then I turn this over and I go to the other side and use that as my template to cut away. Nice and straightforward. There we go. And then that should be the same. And I found this tassel earlier, and I'm quite keen to maybe have that on this tag, and I don't want to have anything else on it. I just want the kit to do the talking, and then whoever ends up with this can decorate it or write on it front and back and be able to add their own embellishments. So it's just trying to steer clear of adding too much and give somebody else a go. So that's going to be like that. Well, I think we want a little square or something. And I might go into this box of washi tape stickers here that I'm now thinking I could use for other things, and just see if I can come up with something here. Maybe that's quite nice. Let's go with this one. So it could be just washi tape. I'm only using this because it's what I've got. I think I bought this from somewhere online. Originally comes from Japan, I think, and it's one of those purchases where you think it's going to be bigger than it is. So sometimes we get a bit caught out and we think that we're going to get them that size in a washi tape sticker would be brilliant, but actually they arrive that size. So it's just one of those purchases, and therefore they get relegated to junk because they're not really what I was imagining. And so that's okay, because we just think of another use for these things. Alright, so I think I can get away with this. I'm going to use my tweezers to try and just extract that. Alright, so really you just want some washi tape and then just roll it over the top of a glue stick to give it some extra strength. And then I'm going to add this. Okay, and then I'm just going to use the bone folder to really squash that down and make sure that that is pressed in and just highlighted slightly. I'm going to use a 1/2 inch hole punch here and just get a little bit of interest from this paper here, like that. That dot on there. Okay, and now I'm going to just make a mark where I think the centre is and use a little hole punch here, like a regular small hole punch, and just punch that out. That's good enough. Okay, so I don't know where this came from. It came off of some gift wrap thing. It was absolutely brilliant. But I'm just going to make it a little bit shorter because I just think the swing of it is just too long. So I think I will have it at that point, cut away that. So it's just going to swing off there like that. I think we'll just put that in there. So I'm just trapping it under one of these washers, and this is already set to be a washer eyelet setting. So we just squash that on. Beautiful. And it can swing down. That's really, really fun. And then we'll put in something else as well. So I've got 2 little yarn trims here, little ribbons, things that I've either been sent or given in Happy Mail, and little pieces that I've discovered along the way, and things that have come from, I think that's yarn that is a Japanese yarn but actually was sold in London. Things that I picked up. This pretty yarn's got little, it's just really nice yarn. I like that. And then I could stamp it on the back, but I'm not sure at the moment, so I need to see everything in situ in the journal. And then there's some embellishment and things that need to go on, but I just need to see what it would look like. That's really fun. Oh, that's really fun. That's quite nice. Okay, that's quite good. And that does actually flop down and tuck in, so it's not too sticking up. It's quite delicate. That's what I'm wanting. So make the top of your tag do the talking and keep the rest really simple, just using part of a kit, and then you don't need to worry about labels and stickers and stamps. You could just make a batch of these. You just need a nice little bit of washi tape and then think about some interesting trim and lace and that sort of thing, you can collect all of that up and be able to make some really great tags this year with some little, keep your eyes peeled for some interesting yarns when you go to charity shops and places like that. And over on the Facebook group, I have challenged everybody to make paper clips within 20 minutes to use scraps to add something blue and something a little bit sparkly. So just do my own challenge very quickly so that I've got something to show for it. And I'm going to just look at my scraps and start pulling out things that are blue or scrappy. So scrap, let's say a scrap, something blue, maybe that, and something sparkly. A bit of sparkle, I said. I might have to do a stick-on gem. Oh, hang on. That's sparkly. I consider that quite sparkly. So that's a nice idea. Okay, so we've got 20 minutes to make a couple of... Well, make one, I said. That was the limit. Okay, how about this idea? Okay, so I'm going to use the long side with the 2 loops facing this way. So we are going right and we've got the 2 loops facing that way and the long bit at the bottom. And I'm going to use this scrap, which has got a bit of glue on it, of this nice paper that I had. And I used this in the Marion North journal. I just feed that through and so it's like that. And then fold this down and add some glue. We'll just see what this looks like. So it's a scrap, something blue, so it's a blue scrap, so that sorts that out in one swoop, doesn't it? So we just add a blob of glue in there. And so there we go. So that's your paper clip. So the paper clip will still slide onto a piece of paper that it does. Yes, so that is now like a banner, little flag or something, and then I'm just going to hide whatever this bit is here. Just honours that piece of paper really, but we'll push on with what I've said. So something blue, and this is something green blue, so we'll just add that as well. I love finding different coloured sari silks. And then add my sparkle. I think we'll just add it across there. Could be paper, could be fabric, could be trim, could be anything you've got. Everybody's paper clips are going to be different, but the challenge is to make a paper clip in under 20 minutes using a scrap, something blue, and a little bit of sparkle. And there we go. So that is now going to come and live in this new journal here and be the extra little cute thing that goes in there. Okay, so have a look in the description box below and I will leave the links to some of the other bindings that we did in the previous video just in case you missed that, and then that will help you to have a go and have a practice before you tackle anything like that, which does need a little bit of patience. So make sure that you get the stitch down to a fine art before you attempt it. And if you're confident with binding already, then there's just a nice idea of how to maybe do just some beads instead of lots of beads and keep things subtle and pretty, and that is just an idea there for adding some lace and texture to the top of a tag, and a really sweet and very simple way of putting together a nice little embellished altered paper clip for your journals to match in. Okay guys, so I hope you found fun and value there. Do please give me a thumbs up, like and subscribe, and above everything else, just slow down and make crafting time for you. Bye bye now.